It is 40 acres, and the college basketball world is shaking up for an exciting week of conference tournaments. Texas men's hoops just picked up a big win to keep their postseason chances alive, and the seeding between two of the best teams in women's college hoops was decided on a coin toss, and Isaiah Bond did not, in fact, break the record for the 40-yard dash at the Combine. Stick around because we're talking all this out on the one and only College Crossfire.
All right, I'm going with classic, the 9-9-9. I'm going to do the 9 hot dogs, 9 beers, 9 innings challenge.
Need I say more? Need I say more? Need I say more at all?
From Costco specifically, I'm going to take 2 double chunk chocolate cookies, ice cream sandwich, but it's fried.
It's about to get hot in here, folks.
It's about to get hot.
Good evening to everyone tuning in tonight. I'm your host, Robert Gonsolin, and we've got a very exciting show in store for you. It's show number 6 of the semester, and we're now in the best time of the college basketball season, March. We're about to witness unexpected runs and unsung heroes emerge in this crazy but lovely time of the year. How can you not be romantic about March? Before we begin, I want to share with you that today's show is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between, so plan your ride to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. All right, so without further ado, before we get into some introductions, just want to say there's a little bit of a different shot here tonight. We're going wide here tonight, because when you're talking about the entire college basketball landscape, you want to include every single team and look at it from a broad view. So, with that being said, let's jump right in. Starting things off tonight, we have last week's champion who won on his very debut. You can count on him to rock a stylish suit or attire everywhere you see him on air. It's the native from Frisco, Ayan Masud.
What's up, Robbie G? Happy to be back on, ready to defend the crown.
How was it winning on your first time ever last week?
I didn't expect to win. I think that the fire round really helped me out. The nerves, we got out for the second round. Third round, we were ready to fight. Secured the W, man.
Well, we're excited to have you back on this week. And now, to your left, someone from the DMV, a huge DC sports fan, and 2-time Tournament of Champions finalist, 1-time winner. Let's welcome back on Mr. Ryan Hopper.
It's great to be here, Rob. I'd like to put some respect on my name, though. I won the Tournament of Champions.
I said 1-time champion.
My rookie season. And I hope this works with the mic, but I brought 2 jerseys tonight because it's prime time for Dion, because I'm finna grub on a victory tonight, getting fat on a win. Let's go.
Talk about a March Madness hero as well. They did not come out with the title that year, but it was fun to watch them. I think that Duke team went to maybe the Elite 8.
I was there. They lost to Michigan State.
Was that the
I was there.
infamous shoe slip?
No, that was regular season.
There you go. That's a little memento right there, the Zion Williamson jersey. And finally, we have a huge basketball fanatic who is loving what his second favorite team, the Duke Blue Devils, are doing right now with Cooper Flack as they get ready for the NCAA tournament. You can usually find him working very hard in the control room on Monday nights for Press Box. It's our very own Aram Vela. Good evening. Good evening to you, Aram. So tonight's show is going to be a lot of fun, but before we begin, it's important that we review the game's rules in case our viewers have never tuned in before. So there are going to be 3 rounds with each one containing 3 questions. I'm going to dish out points in the order of 3 points, 2, and 1. So from the best answer to the worst answer. Whoever has the most points at the end of the final round wins and gets to return for next week's show. However, there is a catch. We must not forget that the third and final round, better known as the rapid fire round, is double the points, meaning the best answer will receive 6 points, second best will receive 4, and third will receive 2. In this round, the contestants have not been able to see or prepare for these questions whatsoever, so they'll have to think on their feet and come up with their idea of what the best possible answer is. In the event that there's a tie by the end of Rapid Fire, I have a bonus question prepared to determine who our crowned champion will be and who gets to come on for next week. Now that we've reviewed the rules, let's jump right in. Starting the night off, the Texas Longhorns men's basketball team continues to survive. Last night, the team came through with a quad 1 win on the road against 25th ranked Mississippi State. This win put Texas in a much better position in the bubble as they continue to barely keep their NCAA tournament chances alive. With the final game of the regular season coming up on Saturday, what does Texas need to do in order to ensure themselves a spot in the NCAA tournament? Ayan, start this one off.
Well, so the past 3 games that Texas basketball has played have been some of the most terrible basketball they've played all season. The Arkansas loss was horrid. Georgia at home, another massive lead that Georgia had on Texas. What Texas needs to do right is get Caden Shedrick right. He did not play good last game. He missed a lot of his free throws, and then Arthur Kaluma, who hit 2 free throws in overtime to help seal the victory, in that regular game, he didn't do much at all. It was all Trey Johnson, all Tremont Mark. Arthur Kaluma and Caden Shedrick need to step up in order for the Horns to play good in the SEC tournament and hopefully March Madness.
Trey Johnson and Tremont Mark were indeed the 2 best players on Texas's team last night. You know, Arthur Kaluma, Caden Shedrick, they struggled a little bit. Shout out Kaluma's biggest fan, Justin Gooseman. But with that being said, let's hear from you, Ryan.
Well, surprisingly missing from that answer is, first of all, some way, somehow, they have to beat Oklahoma on Saturday. Oklahoma's coming to the Moody Center. Rodney Terry, believe it or not, for all his faults, has never lost to Oklahoma. The streak against Oklahoma goes back to the Beard days. I believe it's 7 or 8 straight. You want to keep that going. That's a team on the other side of the bubble that you want to eliminate. But how are they going to beat Oklahoma and win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament to get into March Madness? Well, Rob, they have got to get Tremont Mark going. Every big victory this season, the Kentucky win, the win against Mississippi State, so many other huge victories. The Arkansas victory they nearly got in Fayetteville. Tremont had a great game. You know Trey Johnson's going to score. You know Kaluma, bless him, is going to be able to rebound despite his size. They have to get Tremont Mark going, and they can't make stupid mistakes with the basketball. That game shouldn't have went to overtime last night. They didn't inbound the ball, and then, Larry, what are you doing, dog? Why are you fouling right there? Gotta be smart.
The inbounding was indeed an issue last night, and that was something where they had the game easily could have been won by 4 points, but then they blew it right there with 15 seconds to go. Aram, finish this one off.
So yeah, obviously they got to beat Oklahoma. First things first. They're kind of in a similar situation. I think Oklahoma is maybe a spot or 2 below them or above them in the SEC standings, but they have to probably win at least 3 to 2 games in the SEC tournament, in my opinion, to even be considered to be on the bubble. That would finish the record around 21-14, make it to the quarter semifinals, and obviously the SEC is a gauntlet. But as far as the net rankings for this team, they are 46, so that would round them in the top 65 of the nation. And as far as quad 1 wins, they play a lot, but they also lost a lot. So they're 4-9 in quad 1 wins, or playing quad 1 competition. So this team is playing competition, they're just not playing well against it. And if that's the only thing I could really think of with this team is that, you know, they play a lot of good teams and, you know, they lose a lot, but that's basically what they're going to have to do in order to make the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, a major theme here is Texas is playing in what is this season's toughest conference in all of college basketball. And, you know, there are a lot of games to show that they have not played well at all. I mean, look at last night's game. I mean, they barely came out with the win and it shouldn't have gone to overtime. Aram, you talked about them having to win against OU and then having to get a few wins in the SEC tournament. I think that's what ensures them the spot the most. You're going to get the 3 on this one. Ryan, the 2, you talked about that surefire win that has to happen against Oklahoma. And then you just talked about, you know, the team needing to clean up some errors, you know, Ayan, the 1. So 3-2-1 down the line. So moving on to the women's team now. So the SEC women's tournament tipped off today with AP-ranked number 1 Texas receiving the 2 seed and 5th-ranked South Carolina receiving the 1 seed. While these 2 teams finished with the same conference record and split their season series 1-1, the seeding between these 2 teams came down to a coin flip, as you can see right there. Do you agree with this means of determining the seeding for the SEC tournament, or if not, what should the altered criteria consist of? Ryan?
Well, Rob, first of all, this is just a complete farce. I mean, this is just ridiculous. The third criteria for a tiebreaker passed head-to-head, and the second one's unclear. It's like win against best opponent, but that didn't matter because South Carolina and Texas beat the rest of the conference. And then a coin toss. The NFL, for context, Rob, the coin toss is the 12th tiebreaker. You're never going to get there. That's the best-run league in America, and they know we don't ever want this going to a coin toss. This is disrespectful to the players, disrespectful to these coaches. I mean, the coin toss, the history of it, first originated in the Roman Empire. The ancient Romans. We're still doing this. It's archaic. It's ridiculous. It's unfair to this team. It should be point differential. How much did you win by? How much did you lose by? South Carolina should be the #1 seed. They beat Texas by 17. Texas only beat them by 5 or 6. It should be the Gamecocks.
From a completely very objective perspective, people are saying, okay, South Carolina got the 1 seed, and that's what they should have gotten because they're like saying there was a coin toss, ball don't lie. South Carolina won by so much in the first matchup, and Texas barely won in the second one. South Carolina should get the 1 seed is what people are saying. Aram?
So, I mean, I guess when you consider all the factors like quad 1, which Texas, they're #1 in the country in quad 1 wins. I think they're at 12-2. Obviously, there's other considerations like net rankings and, strength of schedule. I obviously think that's a pretty important one. And like you said, point differential. If it's point differential, like you said, South Carolina would get that. They beat Texas by more. If it's quad 1 wins, Texas would get it. Strength of schedule, I think Texas would get it. But, I mean, it's not often you see the #1 team in the country end up second in their own conference because of a coin toss. So I guess it kind of was kind of like a coin flip in a sense that, there's a lot of factors that had to go. But, yeah, those are the factors that I think. Quad 1 wins, net rankings, point differential, and what was the other thing? I said it earlier.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things you can work with, and all of them are better suited than a coin toss. Ayan?
So I want to talk about just like the state of women's basketball right now. It's on the come up. It's blowing up. If I'm Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, you need to think about money. That dough is what fuels the world. If I'm Greg Sankey, I'm getting a play-in game happening there not a play-in game, but a game for the #1 seed in the tournament would create a lot of views. I mean, South Carolina versus Texas has been a talked about matchup for so long. That would generate views, would generate money. It would have to probably be neutral site or maybe the one that had the most points. But I think that a game like that would really, ball don't lie in that scenario.
That's a very creative approach on taking things. I'm going to have to give the 3 right here to Mr. Ryan Hopper because I simply think that point differential is the most simple way after head-to-head wins. And then you said the second criterion it was your record against the highest-ranked opponents. Mm-hmm. And then point differential, that's just the way to keep it simplest and it shows, okay, this team is clearly better head-to-head by how much they won. Aram, I'm going to have to give you the 2 right here because I know quad 1 wins. That could be a criteria you could use. You also mentioned, your record against ranked opponents, like your net rankings. You mentioned that. Those are also other tangible criteria you could use. I like what you said about women's college basketball is continuing to grow and grow and grow, and why not capitalize off of that from a money aspect? But I don't think 2 of the best teams should have to play each other again to be the best seed in the tournament because they've played enough already. They don't want to risk another injury just to determine seeding. But still, it's a creative approach. 3, 2, 1 is the order for right there. Moving on. So let's take a step back and look at the greater world of college basketball. Conference tournaments for NCAA men's and women's have already begun, and teams are now competing for an automatic qualifying bid in the Big Dance, or they're just looking to improve their seeding. However, for the men's tournaments, most of the marquee conferences begin their play next week. Which conference tournament on both the men's and the women's sides will end up being the best one to watch, and why? Aram, start this one off.
Should I wait for that to roll out?
Got long VO.
That is a long VO. I don't know who made that. Anyways, I'm going to just start. Obviously, the popular answer would be SEC on both sides because you mentioned earlier it's the best conference in the men's side of things, and it's the best conference in women's as well. For the women's side, you got 7 ranked teams. I believe that's the most in the country. You got 3 teams probably that can end up competing for Final Four berth in Texas, South Carolina, and LSU. You got teams like Kentucky that can make a deep run too. That's what I'm going to say for the women's side. The men's side, you got the #1 overall team. Well, they won't be #1 for long because Duke's going to take that because Auburn just lost. But you got a lot of ranked teams on there too, and I feel like on the men's side too, there's a lot of teams that aren't ranked, like Arkansas, and I think even Kentucky can make a lot of noise in that tournament. So I'm going to go SEC on both sides. It's going to be the best to watch because it's the best conference on each side.
Not only do you have your best teams in the entire country like Auburn and Alabama and Florida and Tennessee, but you also have so many teams who have the potential to beat those teams like an Ole Miss or like an Arkansas, like you mentioned. Ayan.
So I can agree with Aram on his points, but I think for the men's side, it's going to end up being the ACC. Maryland has been on the come up. Louisville is a team that I'm really looking out for. Can Duke defend that #1 seed? They've done great things. Can they do it with that #1 ranking in their tournament? And for the women's, obviously the SEC tournament for women's has been pretty electric. The Big Ten hasn't had as much ball, hyped up ball since Caitlin Clark left. The SEC has really taken over, I think, for women's basketball.
Yeah, Caitlin Clark, Big Ten, Paige Beckers, Big East. But, the SEC they've had South Carolina, they've had LSU in prior seasons. Those teams are still great, but there's other teams stepping in like Texas. Ryan.
Okay, well, Rob, I immediately moved to strike Ayan's answer because the Maryland Terrapins no longer play in the ACC, Ayan.
Oh,
they
no.
play in the Big Ten. They should play in the ACC. It's been a decade now. It's also been a decade in his thinking about the ACC tournament being the most entertaining. This is one of the worst North Carolina teams we've seen in years. Aram's Blue Devils are going to run that tournament. UVA is a shadow of what it once was. They're somehow even tougher to watch. Men's side, it just means more. The SEC is the deepest. They could get 12 or 13 teams in the field. Like you said, teams like both Mississippi schools, Texas. Don't sleep on Vanderbilt playing right near home in the state of Tennessee. They're going to have home court. On the women's side, though, I actually think that you look at a deeper conference in the SEC. The SEC very top-heavy, but according to women's bracketology on ESPN right now, the Big Ten, by a mile, gets in more teams into the NCAA tournament right now with 13. They're basically just like the men's SEC league. For context, the SEC women's are only projected to get 9 in. So I'm going with the 2 deepest leagues. That's what you want in March.
So we have the Atlantic Coast Conference and the SEC and the Big Ten and the SEC and the SEC. Those are all some great answers right there. I'm going to have to give the 3 right here to Mr. Ryan Hopper just because you talk about depth in conference, and you struck that depth. You struck that just the firepower of the SEC so well on the men's side, and then you talk about the women's side. They're just with such a big conference now, I think 18 teams, there's so much room for chaos that anyone on the bottom half of the conference of the standings can jump in right there. Ayan, I'm going to give you the 2 on this one because there's just so many firepower on the men's and the women's side. And then, unfortunately, Ayan, Maryland, they are no longer in the ACC. But 3 questions up, 3 questions down. That is going to conclude our first round of the night. But when we return, we've got some more basketball to talk about just because it's March. Don't go anywhere. College Crossfire returns in just a sec. Welcome back into College Crossfire. We've got a great show here tonight so far with our scores heading into the second round. Mr. Ryan Hopper with 8, Aram Vela with 7, and Ayan Masud with 3. It's still anyone's game. We still have 2 more rounds to go, and anyone can take it all. All right, so as we continue on, there's just so much to talk about in the basketball world right now. So we're just going to stay right where we are and talk about the collegiate level a little bit more. Right now, in the spirit of March, we have conference tournaments coming up, so I want to get a little bit more specific. So each season, these tournaments always have the potential for absolute craziness. One underdog is always bound to go on a run, and with that being said, which college basketball team in the men's and women's division do you have turning things around and going on an unexpected run to win their tournament's championship? Aram, start this one off.
For the women's side, not really an underdog, but considering the conference that they're in, the Big Ten, I'm going to go with Maryland. So they're ranked 15th in the country, but they got so many teams above them. Like Ryan said, last round's probably the deepest conference in all women's basketball. They got Kayleen Smickle, I think that's her name. She's averaging 17. She should be getting national headlines for awards. They're 4th in quad 1 wins in the entire country at 7-4. On the men's side, I'm going to go with Kentucky in the SEC. They've been missing Jackson Robinson these past couple games and Lamont Butler. Those are arguably their 2 best players, 2 most impactful transfers for that team, obviously, for Mark Pope. You know, this is a team that at the beginning of the season, they beat the #1 team, soon to be #1 team, the Duke Blue Devils. I think Mark Pope can take this team pretty far because, you know, like we said last round, there's a lot of teams in the lower half of the SEC that can upset some of the bigger teams.
That was a crazy pull from you, the Kentucky-Duke matchup in the Champions Classic back in November. That was actually a question that we talked about. We recapped that matchup back in November. Ayan.
For the women's side, I'm going to go with Tennessee. Tennessee came to the 40 acres to play Texas. Their head coach was pregnant. She was having her baby when the Tennessee Vols were here, and their associate coach stepped up into the head coaching position for that game. The fight that I saw Tennessee have, their leader, their coach was gone. They brought Texas down to the wire. That game, I was working that game. I was working cables, and I was just watching this intense competition between Tennessee in Texas. I think Tennessee does it for the women's. For the men's, I'm taking Louisville. Like I said, they've won. They've only had 2 losses in their last 20 games. I think they're up right now, if I'm not wrong, and that's who I have for the men's.
All right, Mr. Ryan Hopper, finish this one off.
All right, so we need an answer for both. Okay.
Yes.
So unfortunately for the women's, Ayan took my answer because I too was working the Tennessee game. He was working cables. I was doing coverage for TSTV Sports. Great fight with their interim coach that night. Took Texas down to the wire, and it wasn't because Texas played a bad game. Yes, they've got some great teams in the SEC ahead of them, but you never know. Anything can happen. And the tournament is in this. Oh, no, excuse me, that's the men's side. But it's in Greenville, South Carolina. That is about an hour drive from Knoxville. There's going to be a lot of orange and white checkered in the stands. They're going to have home court. Speaking of home court in the men's side, guys, you can't miss them. They're a blue blood program. They're just down on their luck right now. Rock Chalk KU. There is 5 Big 12 teams ranked ahead of them. 5 Big 12 teams ranked. They are not. Look, you still have Hunter Dickinson, one of the best bigs in college basketball, patrolling the paint. Shout out Hunter. Alexander, Virginia, repping the city. Zeke Mayo shooting 40% from 3. And you know what? They're hungry. They're a dog backed into the corner. They're desperate. Everybody's talking all that mess about them. This is probably Bill Self is saying they don't believe in us. They're tapping on you like never before. They, with home court in Kansas, are going to win the Big 12 tournament and shock everyone.
Those are all some great answers. I have to give the 3 right here to Aram Vela. I think just you talk about Kentucky. Them coming, they lost to Texas, but they're turning it around. They've stayed consistently at the top of their rankings, yet there's just a good amount of teams in their tournament or in their conference that are ahead of them. They could definitely make some noise in about a week or so. I'm giving you the 2, Louisville and Tennessee. Those are some good teams, but they're kind of in the middle of their conference. Ryan Hopper, Tennessee's also a great team. Kansas, it'll be interesting. That Big 12 conference is really, really good. Not as good as last season, but they are really good. I just don't know if they can win their tournament. All right, moving on. Yesterday, Shams, Sharania reported that the Dallas Mavericks star player Kyrie Irving suffered a season-ending ACL tear. On top of that, it has been known that Anthony Davis is also out for the rest of the season with an injury. So these two things are just two more hardships that Dallas Mavericks have suffered in a very long season since star player Luka Doncic got traded to the LA Lakers. So with the current health status of this team and where they currently sit in the playoff picture, how do you think the Mavs should strategize moving forward? Do you think you just work on next season, maybe a small rebuild, perhaps, or do you persevere for the playoffs with where you are right now? Ryan?
Well, I actually think that for the Mavs, it is neither answer. You got to go on a full-scale rebuild, tear the whole thing down, because really, you backed yourself into a corner with the Luka trade. The principal piece you got back in the Luka trade is a guy in Anthony Davis who is great when healthy, but he's made of glass, folks. He turns 32 next week, okay? Who in their 30s, as an injury-prone big man, has ever historically gotten healthier as their career progressed? Nobody. Another birthday coming up. Kyrie Irving is turning 33 just 2 weeks after his ACL tear. What is he going to be going forward? How is a guy who is built on skill but also great athleticism and finishing at the rim, how is that injury going to impact him going forward? You already have Lively hurt. I understand you can't unload people now because we're past the trade deadline. The Mavs need to blow it all up. They might move to Vegas anyway. They gambled with the Luka trade, so they're meant for Vegas, and they crapped out, Rob. Rebuild right now. You do not want to be stuck in the mediocre doldrums in the NBA. Take it from me, a Wizards fan.
It's just a slow time for the Dallas Mavericks right now. Aram?
Yeah, I don't think rebuilding is really an option if you make a move like that bum Nico Harrison making that move, gifting probably one of the top 5 best players to the Lakers, and the Lakers pretty good, by the way. Mavericks, it's not going to happen for them, not this season. But when you make a move like that, I don't think rebuilding is an option. It's unrealistic to think that Nico Harrison is going to trade away Kyrie and Anthony Davis and blow it all up, like Ryan was saying. So the best thing for them to do, and I mean, I love to see Mavericks fans suffer. The best thing to do is just, I mean, they have to get healthy. So that's a top 5 front court with Lively, Gafford, and Davis defensively. Kyrie's going to do his thing when he gets back. Hopefully that ACL doesn't, affect him too much. Hopefully Max Christie, develops into that two-way role player that Quentin Grimes was going to be before they decided to trade him. So they just got they got to keep doing what they're doing, I guess. I don't know what they're cooking in Dallas, but rebuilding is not an option for them.
So you're just kind of waiting it out, waiting for them to get healthy. Ayan?
I was gonna say that the Mavs cannot completely rebuild, and I'm gonna agree with Aram. They've got to get something going here. Gafford with the sprained MCL, Lively hurt with the fractured ankle. They were calling them the Twin Towers last playoff run. You've got to get those guys healthy. Kyrie and Clay are getting old. The fact that Kyrie's coming off ACL, one of the hardest things that an athlete can come off, especially at that age. Clay's old and hurt as well. You've got to package Kyrie and Clay, send them somewhere else. You've got to pick up some young talent. PJ, you've got to keep PJ. His defense is great, and then his corner shooting, spot up shooting has been great. You've got to make a run for it. Trade away Kyrie, trade away Clay.
Yes.
You know what happened to the Twin Towers, right? I mean, come on, dude.
They went down, but
come on, dude.
They went down, but they're gonna be up. They're gonna be rebuilding. They're gonna be standing strong. Time and patience.
So. Hey.
I would never wish injury on
Hey, man. I'm gonna give the 3 right here to Ayan Masud because you talk about not a full rebuild, but making some changes. You can rely on Lively and Gafford, 2 of the best big men duo in the league when healthy. But Kyrie and Anthony Davis are getting old. So that part needs, that part of the offense, defense of the Mavericks, that tandem, it's not something you can rely on for the future. Mr. Ryan Hopper, you talk about a rebuild in terms of you can't rely on Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving fully, but you don't. You need to make some changes with the offense and defense. I think that the Mavericks, they have a lot of key pieces on their team, but they can't just wait wait for everyone to get healthy again. I don't see them making an NBA title run if they're just going to wait with the players that they currently have. So 3, 2, 1 down the line. So some great answers. But finishing off our round right here, let's switch over to a different sport. First different sport of the night. The NFL Combine took place last week, and many players showed out to make their case to all 32 NFL teams as to why they should draft them. While there was no major record-breaking performance like last year when Xavier Worthy ran the event's fastest 40-yard dash ever, there were still many impressive sights on display. Which player, in your opinion, gained the most out of the Combine and improved their draft stock? A great second. Oh, yeah. Just go. That was the question right there. Yeah. Who gained the most?
Well, who gained the most? I came on the show last week, talked about Jalen Milroe, how he could capitalize off his athleticism. He didn't make the throws that I thought he needed to make. So I'm going with a guy from Texas. He ran the fastest 40. This is the easiest answer. Matthew Golden is going to be a star. He's going to be a top 50 pick, let alone probably a first-round pick, maybe in the range from 15 to 20. He looked slower on film, but he ran that 40 showing his quickness. I think that the reason he looks slower on film is just because of his build. He's thicker, but he's an ideal outside receiver, and he's going to do some crazy things, and I really do believe that. Matthew Golden is shooting up draft boards, and his Combine performance only helped that.
He's one of those players who we've continually seen, come from a prospect who not a lot of people really know, plays well in the playoffs, and then is moving up the draft boards. Ryan Hopper.
Well, first of all, shout out to my old high school teammate, Rob Longerbeam. Got a Combine invite. We love you, Rob. I'm going to turn, though, to a different defensive back, and I think it's important to highlight players that, the common fan won't know. Like, a lot of people are going to know Milroe and Jahdae Barron. How about, I'm sorry if I butcher this name, Nick Emamorori? He's a safety, South Carolina Gamecock, okay, but he's one of those hybrid safeties that is a premium in the NFL. He was anywhere from a second to a fourth-round prospect, but guess what he did at the Combine? He placed in the 96th percentile or better in 4 different events, including the 40 at his position. He's a safety, but he is 6'3", 220, has the speed of an outside corner. You can play him anywhere. Defensive coordinators are salivating now to get this kid on their team. He can cover a tight end. He can cover a tall outside boundary receiver. He can cover a short slot receiver. This kid could do anything. Don't let the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo get this kid. He's probably going to be a first-round safety now. He's pushing that first round. And don't believe me. Believe Pro Football Focus.
Hey, South Carolina prospect, shout out my friend Trey Fuselier, Aram Vela.
Yeah, that was my answer. I thought I was going to answer this one first. He's honestly one of the freakiest athletes we've ever seen in the Combine. He ran a 4.38 at 6'3", 220, and he has a 43-inch vertical. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that at the safety position. They compared him to Derwin James, and that's a pretty good comparison. He's about 1.5 inches taller. Like Ryan said, he can play all over the field. You can play him in the middle. You can play him in coverage. Freak athlete. I forgot what I was going to say, low-key. This is the thing I was going to say. It's basically like having DK Metcalf on the defensive side of the football, freak athlete. He was probably going to be, like you said, second or fourth rounder. He's going to be a top maybe 20. He's going to go in the 20 to 30 range for sure. Like you said, don't let the Chiefs get him.
Yeah, so that guy, that prospect, he really, talk about improving your draft stock by jumping rounds. When you're able to score in the 96th percentile in multiple categories, and including the one where most people watch the Combine for, the 40-yard dash, you're going to see some improvement in some of your potential paycheck money go up in numbers. I'm going to give the 3 right here to Mr. Ryan Hopper. You talked about his coverages a little bit. You talked about his statistics in terms of introducing, he ran really fast at the 40-yard dash. He's able to, play cover 2 a little bit. Aram, you're going to get the 2 on this one. I and the 1. Matthew Golden still improved his stock tremendously. Okay, so that's going to wrap things up for our second round. It's a great round from all 3 of our contestants. The basketball world continues to excite, and the NFL draft is not far from us. Just going over the scores here, we have Mr. Ryan Hopper with 14, Aram Vela with 13, and Ayan Masud with 9. So, anyone's game still has rapid fire, double the points. It's coming up. So, we'll be back in just a second. Welcome back into College Crossfire. We have a very close game right now. Mr. Ryan Hopper leading with 14, Aram Vela with 13, and Ayan Masud with 9. But tonight's win is still up for grabs by anyone as we're about to begin our third and final round of the night, Rapid Fire. Double the points, double the pressure. It's about to get hot.
Let's go.
Let's get into our first question. This morning, FIFA announced the 2025 Club World Cup this summer will have a $1 billion prize value in prize money. This amount will be distributed across different teams based on their performance, of course, and not solely given to the champion. Let's say you received all of that first place prize money, though. If you were the owner of a professional sports team, how would you choose to use the winnings? Maybe do you reinvest in some great players? Do you build a new stadium? What do you do with this prize money?
So from what I understand about soccer, you said it's $1 billion, right?
$1 billion for the whole tournament. You know, the first prize gets a probably.
So yeah, I mean, if I'm winning, if I'm an owner, soccer, from what I understand, there's not really like a salary cap. So, and I think it's called like the transfer market or something like that. So it doesn't work like the MLB or the NBA where there's free agency. I'd go out there and I'd buy all the good players, even if they're old as hell. Like I'm gonna get Ronaldo, I'm gonna get Messi, I'm gonna get Neymar. I'm gonna become a box office attraction. I'm not gonna become like a clown show like the Dallas Mavericks. You know, I don't care about a stadium. You know, if you're winning that kind of tournament, you already have a nice stadium. Get all the good players with $1 billion. I think you could do it with that kind of money.
So just add non-talent. You seem like you have an answer ready to go.
All right. Let me tell you the vision, Rob. Look, success breeds more success, and at the end of the day, sports, we all love them, is a business. So it depends what sport you're in, and if you need a new stadium, go the stadium route. But say you're in soccer or baseball, right? No salary cap, or at least no hard cap. We're spending as much as any of our competitors in our league. So if it's baseball, we're going to spend as much as the Dodgers at a bare minimum. Then, both soccer and baseball, we're going to invest in the youth academies. Baseball, we're going to the Dominican building another academy. We're going to Venezuela building another academy. We're going to Japan and building academy. So then we can get the best talent from all over the world. Success breeds success and ultimately makes you more money in the long term. And at the end, if we have any left, a great fan deal promotion for our tremendous fans. Let me buy a team, guys.
Sort of like monopolizing all the youth farms development systems all across the world. Get as many development systems as you can. Ayan.
Talk about money so much. Money runs the world. If I were to get $1 billion, I'm my owner. I'm setting aside a minimum of half. I'm getting the greatest soccer mind in the world to come be my coach for a prolonged amount of time. Then after that, soccer is a worldwide sport.
Soccer man of all time.
Man, you think I know that? Hell no.
Can I get bonus points if I give an answer?
Who is it?
I'd bring Jurgen Klopp out of retirement.
Okay, after that, we're gonna start with facilities, get the best facilities, and have a great recruiting office to recruit all over the world. Bring them to the facilities, woo them, and then boom, you're champions.
All right, moving on. From college basketball junkies to casuals to those who know absolutely nothing and are trying to learn as much as possible in time for the NCAA tournament, sports fans all over will be consuming as much college hoops as possible before March Madness begins. This, of course, leads to watching multiple screens with games going on round the clock at the same time. There's no better place to do this, however, than your favorite sports bar. This question will definitely take contention for one of the most important questions I'll ask on the show the entire year. Which place is the best place to sit down, have some wings, or maybe even a burger, and watch sports? Local or chain? I'm ears for any answer.
You know, if it's now with the multiple screens aspect. All right, I'm going to go with the generic answer, Rob. I hope you can relate to this. It is your hometown bar with your buddies. You're having some beers, you got some pictures, you got multiple screens up, you see all these things, you've been to this bar for years, you always go when you're home. That is the place. It beats anywhere in Austin because of the sentimental value to you. So picture that place back in Houston, Rob, wherever that may be.
You got one?
Yeah. America runs on Chili's. Listen, Chili's is the best, cheapest spot to go. The 3 for me, come on, man, nothing better than that. Go get a booth at Chili's. There's loads of tables, and I hear their margs are incredible. America runs on Chili's.
I hear.
I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, you're slick.
I guess I'll take the food company route too. I'm gonna go with Dave and Buster's because I mean every time I be going there, like there's like hella TVs and like I mean sports comes with a lot of emotion. Like if my team's not going, you know, well I can like there's gonna be kids there. Maybe I can crash out with one of them. You know, like you know. And then there's a ton of machines there you could take your rage out on if it doesn't work. And you know, March, there's a lot of stuff that happens in March. So I mean, what happens in March stays in March, bro.
Love it.
All right. Those are all some great places, and I'd have a great time watching sports if I was there at either 3 of them. All right. Last question of the night. It's been a sad week for College Crossfire and other sports debate show fans. Yesterday, ESPN announced its longtime running show Around the Horn will air its final episode on Friday, May 23rd. Beginning in 2003, the show has aired more than 4,900 episodes that have featured many contestants debating popular sports topics for points. This is the very show that Crossfire is modeled after. If you were to take a blast of the past and bring back one defunct sports television show, which one would that be?
Undisputed Skip and Shannon Sharp. I know Skip's on the Diddy allegations, but that's where I gotta go. That's where I grew up on. No explanation. That's where I grew up on. So.
I remember a show that I grew up on that was also showed at school for its educational value. Get sports science back. Anybody ever watch sports science? It just gives perspective as to how great some of these athletes and coaches really are when you see what's going on. And I'm being told to cut off, but I had a good example.
Not too sure if this is a YouTube series or a show, but Inside the Broadcast is an amazing show that takes you week to week a new sports game and Inside the Broadcast. It's not sports debate, but that's all I got, man.
All right. So, that was a great show tonight. That was a lot of fun, but we can only have one winner, as y'all know. And that winner is Mr. Aram Vela.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it.
Cool. You want to say anything else?
Surprised, but not unexpected. I don't know. I'm tripping right now, bro.
It's college basketball.
Hey, if there was one round for me to win, it would have been the basketball one. So it was a good time. I appreciate you, Robbie, and my fellow contestants as well.
That's going to wrap things up for TSTV here tonight. Thank you to everyone who makes the show possible, from the contestants to the in-studio personnel, all the people in Master Control, especially our executive producer, Tyler Moss, and to the audience. Thanks for watching. Remember to tune into our other shows, Want to Know on Friday and College Press Box on Tuesday. Signing off in the studio, I'm your host, Robert Gonsolin. Have a great night.